All righty. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Thursday. I've just been waiting for the algorithm to catch up that this video is on your timeline. And as we are doing that, because this video will be shared on YouTube, I am Shanquetta Cunningham, CEO of Caris Group Consulting. And consider myself a nonprofit enthusiast and a true advocate and architect for nonprofit organizations. And that is good afternoon. A fancy way, excuse me, of saying that I believe our community is held with the fabric of philanthropy, and nonprofit organizations are the epitome of that, but they need resources and strategy and funding. And so that is the role of Caris Group Consulting, to work with nonprofit organizations to increase their capacity in those areas. Now, I'm coming to you today from a very real and raw place that I don't think we talk about enough when it comes to business and the other side of disappointment. Oftentimes, we can glamorize what it means to be in business or to do great things. And we can have such a fairy tale aspect of leadership, of business development, micro business development. And so I just want to share with you, how do you handle when you have set expectations, when you are working the processes and you are literally right there at the finish line, and then things do not pan out as as hoped for, as planned for, as strategized for, as you meant for, as you develop your prototype for it, or your curriculum, or you've your program. And so I just want to share with you, just a few words of encouragement, but also hopefully some tips that you can integrate practically in your rebounding if you are at that space. All righty. So again, how do we handle disappointments? And let me pull up my notes here. And if you are joining the replay, please let me know by pushing replay. If you're here live, it would be great to say hi, and also for you to share this uh, video with someone. I told you I'm coming back. I can't believe that outside of last week, I think it had been a year or so since I've been live. Just amazing how time flies. But back. And you will also be able to find this video under Shaquetta Cunningham on YouTube. As I was reflecting over, again, my own personal and professional journey in some recent things, and I'm not talking about things that happened 5 years ago. I'm talking about recent uh, business, quote unquote, disappointments. And we can label them as disappointments because there were expectations, especially when you have been meticulous in the planning, in the execution, and the meeting, and then what happens when things fall apart. So, one, let me just say the very first tip in this process is to be very honest and transparent about your feelings about process. So, on a professional level, did I have to reach out to some clients or reach out with some potential business partners and express my disappointment, my disdain, right? Those things need to happen and occur because nonprofit leaders, business leaders, over 75% of people in this space experience burnout, have heart issues, high blood pressure, because there are so much inner turmoil because the lack of openness and transparency and expression, that we can actually articulate our disappointment in a very professional way. I literally had to be right there in this space because it is better to get it out. That's on the professional side. You do need someone on the personal side to which you can confide in. For me, that was my husband because I'm able to be very raw and real and say whatever I need to say that I will not say publicly because you need an outlet. And so the very first step in handling any disappointment, but in particular business and professional disappointments, is to be open and honest. Do what you need to do on the business and professional side, whether that is being an advocate and sharing about why the decision, even if it will still stand as is, it should be recorded of your disappointment. But also, you need a personal outlet, whether that is tears, whether that is a scream, but release yourself because it is detrimental for you as an individual to allow people to live rent free, heart, rent free in your heart and in your mind. That while their decision is final and they're sleeping, you're still wrestling because there's so much on the inside. And if you're a woman of faith like me, you do need to pray because I definitely had to do that. All right. Point number two. Sometimes business disappointments can also derive from professional mistakes. So if these disappointments are the result of any professional mishaps and corrections, there's some ownership that must take place. And I know what it is to go and have to stride in correction while you're also striding in that emotional rebounding. But you must do what you need to do as a professional. And these are crossover tips that I'm sharing with you because we can also have disappointments in certain social and relational capacity. And there's times that we make errors, but we must do our due diligence to make those corrections. Now, there are some disappointments that after you've done all you can as a grant writer, I know what it is to work with the team, the foundational team. I know what it is to work with your clients and know that you have a stellar application, that you've done your due diligence, and then to still be told no. And so there are moments that things that happen that are just above you. But in the instance that you can, there are corrections that need to be made. Control what you can control. Take ownership. That's on the other side of just maturity and growth. That oftentimes we want to point the fingers. And while it's so cliche to say there's three, four pink fingers pointing back at you, I really think we just need to up level that and just ensure that, hey, I'm not going to point a finger. What I will do is send a message that if there is anything that needs to be corrected on your end, but also ensure that I do not dwell on that more than what I can control internally, my operations, family, whatever that is to which the area to which you're experiencing your disappointment. All right. Point number three. Prioritize God's promises over people's promises. Verbal agreements are just that. And especially, I want to talk to my small business owners or nonprofit leaders and women organizations where oftentimes we are approached with more verbal agreements than formidable agreements, that we have more empty promises from individuals that again are communicated but not constructed in a formal agreement. Formal agreements at the end of the day in business are what matters. I just had to have a very rude awakening with that. That we can sit here and strategize for 6 months, for a year. But if nothing is on pen and paper, and even though there can be an encroachment and that there can be a different direction made, even with an agreement, but an agreement ensures a concrete process. An agreement ensures some validity to a contractual, the contractual next step. Verbal agreements, and especially, let me just talk to our women, will have us emotionally overstimulated. And so we start to uh, compromise in some of our business execution. We need agreements. We need agreements. The only word that I can take, and I'm saying this as a woman of faith in business, is God's promises. That's the only word that I can believe. That's the only word that we should believe. Because at the end of the day, even if other people have the best intentions, if other decisions are made, think about what we're experiencing in our government, that if other administration priorities are granted, even if people do not intend to, disappoint or break that promise, some things are out of their control. So we have to prioritize, well, what does God say about this business? What areas do I need to shift in? And then what also am I being shown in how I do business? That after a couple of meetings, if an agreement is not executed, then that may end the conversation. Because we'll recognize as women, we give a lot of ideas in casual conversation because it comes naturally to us. And we're helping building models and proposals to which we will not financially benefit. Those are disappointing outcomes. So we have to prioritize God's promises over man's promises and lessen our hope in verbal agreements. Not saying that we should not move forward with expectation. I'm not saying that at all, because this is how these relationships start, in communication. But eventually, ensure that you're not coming to the table and been asked repeatedly to come to the table and you don't see an end goal, if that makes sense. And this is a precept to even mitigating disappointments. Not saying that it's going to stop them, but from what I do know from experience, and I'm talking about real time, just be bold enough to say, hey, will this go anywhere outside of continual conversation? And if there's nothing contractual that will form from this, I'm so grateful to be invited to this space, to this conversation. But the skill sets that we offer can move this project forward. And if there is not a desire to go forward, then you also know what you need to do, and that's okay. And this may resonate more so with women-led businesses and minority-led businesses, because oftentimes we are the ones that are asked to come repeatedly to spaces without any acknowledgement that we can actually receive the contract to do the work. And so verbal agreements are just that. Without a contract, without some formidable process, just know you're talking. Just know you're talking. All right. And then the last step, or the last tip I will say and share, uh, when you are in a business and growing your business or refining your business, there are so many things that are coming out, so many trends. And if we strive to keep up with what's going on with the trending culture, every day it'll seem like we are in our own mission and program confusion, that we want to become the expert of whatever it is, this next best thing. What I'm learning to also overcome disappointments, or when it seems that you're putting your best foot forward and the contracts are still not following through. Literally in the past 2 weeks, have had four major opportunities, or what I thought were opportunities, to fall through. And I'm talking about we've put through the contract, that we've put through the grant, and to no avail. So this is going all the way with some, writings on the wall type of, moving forward, and then for everything to just really fall. So going back to that outlet and that you need a space, after I got all of my frustration and even some tears, because there were some promises that, again, some verbal agreements that you have with certain individuals or corporations, and you think that it's going to go somewhere until the moment that you have to ensure your business integrity is intact, and or you recognize that things were out of the control of both parties. And so at the end of the day, it's still your business. At the end of the day, you still need to bring in revenue. So what do? Do what you do exceptionally well. That's the last tip. I am a communicator. I am a strategist. That's not an idea that you can give me for a business or for a nonprofit, for a youth program, for a city initiative, to where I cannot lay out an entire blueprint. That if foundations wanted to know what's the answer to support rural organizations, I can develop a strategy for it. If you want to know how to develop a curriculum for your youth program, I can develop a strategy for it. It doesn't matter the area, that's the gift. And in business, if you're following trends, which I have been guilty of, you'll sort of lose your essence. And then you're like, what do I do now? Until I was reminded, do what you do exceptionally well. Because I am a woman of faith and in business, the Bible tells me that your gifts will make room for you. They'll bring you before great men. What do I do well? What do you do well? That in your business, and when you first started out, I communicate. I help people and I service people that have brilliant ideas or businesses, and take them through a strategy in connection point. There's not an individual or institution that I don't know or when I get to know, to ensure that the people that I serve have the resources that they need. That's what I do well. I silenced my voice for nearly a year, striving to go in different directions. But what do I do well? Is ensuring people know how to move forward practically. And this is why I'm here today. So, getting over disappointments does take strategy. It takes more than us venting our frustration. It takes more than finger pointing. We do need to ensure the professional and personal integrity of what we do. Not every decision that happens to our business or through our business, that comes from, expectations of relationships or contractual agreements are our fault. You do have a right and you deserve to showcase and highlight wrongs, but then you have to move forward. You have to go back to, what do you do well? You also have to ensure that your business structure and some things are structured to a space to where we just don't go off of all of these, well, they said that they were going to, and sometimes it can be in black and white and on paper, and still it doesn't come to fruition. Do you stop? Absolutely not. And I am a firm believer that these no's are inflection points to where what I am sharing with you today, I may not can name them right now, but there will come a point to where I will be able to say, hey, there was this time I was trying to engage in a relationship with this foundation, with this company, and it did not come into fruition. But this is what was on the horizon, that if I had to taken right disagreement, I would have been stuck here. I'm sharing this testimony ahead today, so that when I come back here to this video, I can share that. Say, you know what, that worked out for my business good. That worked out for my company's good. It worked out for my personal and professional good. And then it's teachable moments. We have to have thick skin in order to be successful. And Lord knows I'm growing in this, but it's teaching me about refinement. It's also ensuring that I know the people that I want to serve. Sometimes we can get disappointed and then we want to throw in the towel. I promise you, I'm not talking about talking to something, talking to you, excuse me, about something that I read about. I know what it is to stop and say, you know what, should I even be in this space at all? So that's when you know, though, when you have not been released to shut down your business or to move from the organization, it's time to just go back in, do what you do well, and know that failures, they're always a part of success. And when you hear people say that, you're like, what in the world? But it's actually true. It strengthens you in a whole different level to where, because I can take this big no, because I can take this contract that you thought that a six-figure loss, and it's like, man, if I can get over this no, these other little no's, piece of cake. So I hope there was something that you can pull out for today. I also pray that if you know someone that is in a very struggle point in their family, their professional, their business uh, journeys, and they feel like giving up or throwing in the towel, that I'm going to encourage you just to fight on just a little bit longer. Never make a decision in an unclear emotional state. Get it out and then move forward. So I know you all are still on lunch, and I hope that we, I know it's crazy to say, but I want us to learn how to be disappointed from a healthy place. Promise you, it's okay to be disappointed, and they will happen. And I know more will happen. And I'm right here in real time telling you that there's been some things happening that I did not expect, especially when you've been working on things for months and months and for it to fall through. But I'm also sharing with you in real time that we have to keep pushing forward, that you have to keep going with the business idea, that you have to keep going with the project conception. You have to model something that your community hasn't seen before. You have to, because average is easy. I don't do average. So therefore, I expect great disappointments because my ideas are big. So just know that. All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you for listening.